Dear brothers, it's about quality, not quantity.
So guys, it should be your conversation, the way you flow, your presence is enough for a woman to want to be around you, not how much money you spend.
Dear sisters, it's about knowing your value.
My sisters out there, don't be afraid to scare a guy off just because you have standards.
Dear brothers, dear sisters, it's time to come together.
All right. Now, listen, welcome back. We had to do a little test run, but welcome back to our very first show in 2023. And you are now tuned in to the most mature conversation when it comes to the realm of podcasting pertaining to relationship topics. And I am so excited about today's show. Listen, I am your host, relationship advisor, and author, Tremel Lawrence. And I'm here with my brother, my ace, my partner, Carter Coach, better known as the accountability coach. And listen, this show is going to have a lot of nuggets, man. How you feeling? And happy New Year's to you, my man.
Man, happy New Year's to you too, brother, man. I'm so excited. We're back at it. We're ready to grind again, man. I'm telling you, this year
Facts.
to be I'm not holding back. I'm not worried about nobody's feelings. I'm gonna deal with the facts. We're gonna deal with what we got to deal with, because we're gonna make things. We're gonna help people to give them the information what they need to have to do what they need to do, and they can either do that or they can stay where they're at and continue to have the results they're having. But I'm excited, man. We just, I love this show. I love being a part of it because it's really about building relationships, healthy relationships, and helping people to figure out what steps they need to do to achieve healthy relationships, and I'm just excited, man. And also,
yes,
like I said, and now I'm an empty nester too. Both my boys are out. They moving into their manhood, and
congratulations, man.
Places and stuff, man. So so it's a new season, man. So new season on the show, new season for me. I'm just excited, man. I really am.
Man, I love the enthusiasm, man. And to those that are tuning in to the first time, just tell the people a little bit about yourself, more about your credentials, my man.
Absolutely. So I just as he said, call the coach, and you can find me on IG and Facebook with that. And I love the accountability coach part, because I believe in accountability. I always tell people I started with myself. I was married 20 years, went through a divorce. And even though the way it ended was not on me, I still had to take a look at myself first. I took a look at myself first to work on me and what could I have done better? What could I have done to be a better husband? What could I have done to be even a better father, as a better person? And that was the accountability step I took, and I've grown from there, and it's allowed me to be a better person, for my future. And I think, that's where I think a lot of people, we tend to blame everybody else. Yes, it hurts when somebody does something.
It does hurt, man.
But for me, that's where I started. When I started working with men, when I got out there, I saw there was nothing for us. And I started working with men. I'm coaching men. I've done seminars for men, trying to position them to be back in that king position that they're supposed to be in, that priesthood, and to be healthy, to be emotionally available, to be mentally mature, emotionally mature, to understand what the true definition of the word provider is, not the social media wording of provider. For men, and so I'm enjoying it, and I coach several women also, but I love working with the men. I'm telling you, it's phenomenal.
Man, that's amazing, my man. And I think what you just mentioned, man, I know that has a positive impact on the brothers who feel like hope is lost, or they feel like no one is listening to them, and to the sisters that you coach as well. So listen, I commend you, and much respect to those who need advice and experience from yourself, who has the credibility, and you can pass that knowledge to the rest of the world. And also, besides what you're doing, my brother, listen, you can also set up a one-on-one consultation session with Carl on our website at dearbrothersdearsisters.com, as well as myself, so that way you can get the advice and the nuggets to make yourself better, so you can have a better fulfilling relationship. And if you're not ready to do the one-on-one sessions, listen, just ease yourself in. You know, we got our blog posts. We have this very podcast that you're tuning in today on our website. And also we have some nuggets. We have our books from yours truly, Dear Brothers, Dear Sisters, Listen Up, which is currently available. And also my sister, Dr. Peggy Johnson, and her book is titled Kingdom of Pearls. So listen, we have a lot of good things going on dearbrothersdearsisters.com. So with that being said, it's time to pivot to our show. And the show is titled Gender Wars, which seems like, Carl, it seems like a never-ending battle. What you think about this topic today?
Great topic, needed topic. And I'll add, it's probably one of the longest wars that's been going on. It's not new. It just evolved into a different type of combat.
That's deep. Wow. And speaking of evolving into a different type of combat, you know, the whole perspective that a lot of people have with this mindset, to me, we both know it's a false premise. We should not be fighting each other. We should be fighting together. But there are so many different factors, you know, that contributes to the gender war, especially in our community. Let's just keep it real, which is why next week, tune in again, because we're doing the gender war part 2, because some of these factors can be related to our environment, such as being raised by a single mother who claims that she does not need a man. So she begins to have that belief and pass it on to her children. Or the images we hear and see on traditional digital social media that would describe brothers who protect, lead, and provide. Some of these other men will call them simps because they devoted their whole life to one woman. So, you know, it's different battles on each side throwing bombs at each other that we need to just cease and really have a great conversation about it. Absolutely. But enough of our thoughts. Let's see what our guests have to say about it today, man. So listen, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Whew. That's what I like to hear, my man. So listen, say no more. So the first person that I'm bringing into the studio, listen, this sister, I greatly appreciate her. I trust her. She has the credentials. She's full of knowledge. Most importantly, she has the experience. She has her own show on a Roku, Evolve with Latoya, which we was watching the other day. Such a great show. Please check it out on the Pure Moment Network on the Roku channel. I like to bring in my sister, Latoya Watson, back into the show.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being on the season premiere of DBDS Live. We appreciate you. Yes. So we have some new viewers here. So tell the people a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and why you're on the show today.
Sure. So I'm Latoya Watson. I'm from Connecticut, and I'm a licensed therapist, speaker, and wellness consultant. I also really love talking about healthy boundaries and healthy relationships. So, and again, thanks for shouting out my show, Tramel. I am on Roku Pure Moment Network, and it's Evolve with Latoya.
Yes, such an amazing show, and people, please tune in. It's a lot of nuggets, and definitely will be beneficial if you check out her episodes. So please check it out. Thank you so much for coming back onto the show. And next, coming into the DBDS Live studio is a very supportive sister who has incredible advice to give, and I'm so honored to have her on. I want to welcome our good sister, Jessica Newman, to DBDS Live.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening, my sister. Yes, so tell the people a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and why you're on the show today.
Okay. Well, my name is Jessica Newman. I am originally from Queens, New York.
Oh, shout out.
I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia. I am an author. I have just finished my second book with the Diamond Writers called Valley Transparency. So look out for that next month. And I am a teacher, mother, and a wife. So I am so excited to be here today, and thank you guys for having me.
Oh, man. Honor's definitely reciprocated. Thank you for being here, and I'm pretty ready for you to drop some gems. You as well, Latoya. So thank you both for coming on to the show.
My pleasure.
And a special shout out to Natima, Mel, and the whole Diamond Riders, man. Special shout out to our sisters out there. So let's pivot to our first subtopic related to gender wars. And the first one I like to dive into and get our guest perspectives on is, and this is a big one, what is fueling today's gender war? Listen, what is fueling it? What is putting that fire for us to attack each other? You know, so for me, I mentioned a few things at the top of the show, you know, such as our upbringing. We got the stereotypes and the images we see from different media types on multiple outlets. But I also want to throw in the radical feminism and the Red Pill brothers because, you know, based on observation, the first one will tell certain sisters that men are disposable and promotes the reversal roles. And the second one clearly states that, hey, these particular men gave up on women, you know, based on betrayal, or it could be rejection, or, you know, a false allegation. But what do you think, my sister Jessica, I'll come to you first, is fueling the war between brothers and sisters?
You mentioned a lot of good points. Upbringing, stereotypes, feminism. They all play a distinct role in this gender war. My opinion, I would say upbringing is the most adamant driving force. Because how you were raised determines how you continue to live out your life. So if you had a strong upbringing where you saw healthy relationships of a man and woman, you know, taking care of their home, raising their children adequately, then you and Tel would turn around and do the same thing as you become an adult. So I think we have to start with the foundation. I think that's where we need to focus our attention on first, to see why we have so many different types of upbringing and how can we solidify, especially in the Black homes, to have that strong male presence, which is one of the reasons why when men grow up, they don't know how to conduct themselves in a relationship.
Wow, very well said. And I mean, man, I just gotta drop a bomb. I mean, definitely we're in it today. That's a very well said, what you just stated, Jessica, because my whole thing is that the hostility that we have towards each other, you know, needless to say, is a breakdown. Without that unit, it's a breakdown of the family structure, you know, and these are tough conversations to have, you know, and we need to get back to the point of unity is strength, you know. The feminism, the everything that is making us divide and conquer, we have to try to reverse that narrative. So thank you for sharing that. Next, I'm coming to my sister Latoya. You know, what are your thoughts? What do you think is adding to this war between our brothers and sisters?
Yeah, there's so many different factors. Everything that y'all mentioned is, I think, spot on. One area that I want to focus on, because this is where I see the gender war really manifest, is on social media. Social media is really fueling it. And I have to say, ladies are talking about behind the scenes, all the men that are coming out with their own podcasts not talk about healthy relationships like your show does, Tremel and Carl, but more focusing on women. And so that I really think is fueling. And I'll also add my reality is very different than what I see on social media. I don't see the gender war when I'm not on social media. And so again, I think I wanted to start there and highlight that, because my reality is I meet a lot of healthy Black men. I don't tend to see that beef play out. I also am very blessed to see healthy marriages, healthy relationships. So then it makes me wonder, well, is this really only on social media? Is this really happening in real life? I'm not sure. Some
Mm.
may say because we're in Connecticut, our view is a little limited. Compared to like Jessica's from Atlanta.
Right.
Um, but
It's a
yeah,
little
I
different
think,
here.
say it again.
I said it's a little different here as far
Right,
as the
right.
relationship
The
dynamic.
regional. I see what you guys saying. Okay.
So you may see more of the gender war play out. Um, but I say all that to say, and one other thing that I'll add on, I I wrote a post maybe last month about the gender war, and it didn't get much feedback. And so then it made me think, well, are people really even self-aware and understand that a gender war has developed, specifically amongst Black folks? Because I don't really see it amongst other races. Um,
Facts.
and so the lack of self-awareness with that piece is also concerning because we can't address something if people don't really see it as a problem, which I know we'll talk more about that later, but that's all I'll say for now.
Wow, you hit a lot of different nuggets on that one. Very well said. Well said. I mean, it's pretty deep because with the whole social media aspect, and that was going to be one of my follow up questions, and hopefully we can dive deeper into it. But you know, the radical feminists who will probably write a meme up there that say, "Hey, you know, I don't need a man. You know, I have my everything." And the simps who will write something up there, you know, just to say, "Hey, they don't want to lead. You know, they prefer to have the woman pursue and chase. You know, just certain things like that." And call a woman a gold digger, but in fact she just wants a man that's financially stable. So then they attack each other on that thing. I just think that creates like so much hostility, as I mentioned. And listen, I have sympathy for the brothers who are hurting. I have sympathies for the sisters who are hurting, but I just think that projecting your wombs onto an entire gender is not the solution, right? So next I'm coming to my brother Carl. What is it that you want to add that you think is fueling the gender war?
Can you hear me all right now?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear, man.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, my thing is, I'm gonna say this. One of the biggest things I think is happening, everybody's screaming who's right and who's wrong. Both sides. You know, and again, people have gone through traumatic situations or maybe a traumatic issue. I get it. But that's where you need to take yourself off the market and go heal. Because you're gonna end up getting sucked into the memes as Counselor Latoya talked about. But everybody's screaming and nobody wants to listen. Nobody wants to hear the other side. Everybody wants to prove that they're right. They're yelling, yelling. You know, and you know, like I use an analogy. Everybody says there's no, you know, people run around, not everybody, but people run around saying there's no good men, there's no good women.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I tell them, I said, okay, well, think about it this way. You have got, you know, you're looking at what's in your area. You've gotten in the pool, and in some cases you've peed in the pool. Everybody else is peeing in the pool. But you keep saying there's nobody around that's not peed in the pool. There's nothing good around here because the pool's messed up. But you choose to remove yourself from the pool. So you stayed in the piss water on your own. And this is what's fueling the war, because it's easy to say, hey, I don't see anybody good because I live in this little small town. Well, you might need to move. You might need to move. So yeah, okay. You live in a small state like Connecticut, so you might need to move to someplace else. But that fuels that gender war because you're sitting here saying, "Hey, there's any good men." So then when you see a meme come up about all men are dogs, that's right. But that's your experience. And when it's the reverse, you see men say, "Oh, well, all women want this, all women," and there are wonderful women out there. There's wonderful, amazing women out there. But because you're living on your experience, you can't see anything else. And that the further divides because everybody's looking for something that they could get if they would just get out the water. Get out the pee water. I mean, if they got the dye in the water now, you see it turning blue. Get out. Stop. You're choosing to stay in dyed up water, and you're hurting yourself with that, and that fuels the divide even more of how people look at stuff. So I tell people, so we got to be careful what you're choosing. There's a saying that I have: just because it hasn't happened to you doesn't mean it's not a reality, and just because it happened to you doesn't mean it's a reality. So you got to find a balance in between that and understand what's real, what's not. And I'll say this: one of the biggest things that fuel gender war: zero accountability. It's just that simple. If you've had 10 bad marriages, only person that was in all those marriages was you. If you had 6 bad relationships, only person in all 6 relationships was you. I can't say nothing different. I mean, when you take a look at yourself and continue to entertain and attract the wrong people and understand it's not that. But that's, like I said, again, that's self-aware. That's all these different things you got to do. But that's fueling the divide and this gender war because it's like, I don't like this. And last point. This was something I just read and saw this. Something they talked about in psychology today. One of the other things that's fueling gender war is the thing that attracts you to somebody can also turn around and cause you to repel them from you. Meaning, you meet a guy that's got confidence, and you like the confidence, and you marry him, you're with him. Now his confidence to you after a period of time begins to look like control and dictatorship. But he's still the confident person.
Wow.
There's something to think about.
Definitely something to think about, my man. And thank you all for tuning in. Very well said, Carl. I'm going to dive into what you stated. But shout out to Tracy that's tuning into the show. Shout out to Alicia, Emily, Jasmine. Shout out to Jasmine, Angie Bryce, Yolanda Grice. Listen, thank you all for tuning in, and shout out to Deanna, and also my man. I'm sorry I cannot pronounce your name, but you're on my other page right now. You're cross seas in India, so thank you for tuning in as well. So, listen, we're gonna go to a couple of comments. So the first comment that we're gonna pull up, and I'm not gonna go through them all because we're under time constraint with our show. So let's go to the first one here.
Okay. Egoism. That's from David.
Yeah, I agree, David, man.
The gender war is exhausting. That came from DBS YouTube page. We absolutely need each other for balance, holistically, feminine and masculine.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Social media definitely is a huge part of it. From Aaliyah. Thank you.
Okay, and I'll just take a couple of more.
We allow outsiders to play mind tricks on our people. Now we're going through a battle of the sexist phase. Shaking my head. I need a wife to get out of this dating game. By the way, great topic, DBDS. Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Hopefully
you tuning
find a
in.
wife. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
A lot of untruthful, unfactual performers on YouTube just putting on a show with basic, shallow, appeasing context, stealing precious money and time from everyday folk. How can you tell which ones are radical feminists and which ones are part of the red pill community?
Oh, okay. That's a question that's being posted to us. That's a really great question. Really great question. How can you tell the difference between a radical feminist and, I mean, pretty much simply, if their mindset is more about dividing instead of unity, that is a huge red flag. And in my opinion, anything that comes across that they don't believe in long-lasting relationships or anything of that nature, or the belief anything to date with a purpose that may lead to marriage or anything of that nature, or the brothers that just want to kick it and don't want to commit to you. I mean, these are sure signs that it's not really a unifying mindset to deal with someone like that. That will be the main difference you could tell. I mean, I'll go and I'll come to you, Carl, what you think is the difference, and I'll go around the table.
Yeah, I agree with what you just said, Mel. I mean, the biggest thing is, like I talk about these I call them Symptonians. They're not they're not symptoms, but they're Symptonians. And it's a lot of these dudes out here. I'm not going to call names because I'm not trying to get hit with a standard lawsuit, but these dudes are on here running around trying to tell people how to be in a relationship, how to be in marriage. These guys, they've never been married. You don't ever hear them talking about their girlfriend or the relationship they're in. They're trying to tell people, but everything they're doing is they're trying to sell a book. They're trying to sell their dating cards. They're trying to sell, whatever they're doing, they're trying to sell. And again, it's a divide. And then when you have the radical, like you said, that's more from the red pill side of it, because everything is. I put it this way: if you got men sitting there and all they're doing is blaming men, they're a problem. If you have radical feminist women telling women, "Hey, you can do all this and be bad by yourself," and all this stuff, that's the radical side of it. That's the easiest way. Like you said, it causes a divide between both people. But like I said, those Symptonians, they're the worst. They really are, because they're literally saying what somebody's looking for. And I'll say it this way real quick. If you look for something hard enough to align with your toxicity, you will find it. Some people will go to therapy to find a counselor who will agree with their bad behavior. And that counselor will continue to take their money, knowing that this is bad behavior. This is not all counselor therapists. There are some people out there. LaToya Watson is definitely not one of those. My thing is, but there are people out there saying negative stuff, and it fits your narrative. Again, think about it. When we put a post up, if it's all nice and warm and fuzzy and let's work together, and 2 likes, might get 1 heart, 1 comment.
2 likes.
You throw up something toxic, men need to pay all the bills and need to do this, and they need to fly women out and don't expect this and all this other stuff. You're going to get 10 billion comments on there. Vice versa. Something else the other way, 10 billion comments. So that just toxicity sells.
It does. Facts. Okay. Very well said. Thank you. LaToya, you want to chime in on this comment?
Yeah, I'll just add in one. I will admit I haven't heard of the red pill community, so I'm not sure what that is.
These are men that entirely get given up on women, and their whole mindset is just to use women, pretty much. Just keep it moving, just a monkey branch from one woman to the other, despite hurting their feelings or whatever the case may be. So that movement is not as big as the radical feminist movement, because they have more, a bigger platform and a bigger political agenda. But the red pill brothers are like the opposite. It's the same as the radical feminist movement, but it's more towards men just giving up on women and just using them and taking advantage of them per se.
Well, thanks for educating me. I would just add on, any shows that don't talk about accountability and unity is a big red flag. I would also say, specific to women who, how do I say this? If their shows talk a lot about business and they don't talk about relationships, or if the focus is only on business and not talking about relationships or healthy partnership, I think that is a red flag that they may have more of a radical feminist view.
Absolutely.
And I'll also add, so some shows, their focus could just be on business, but if this is a specific show that talks about they value healthy relationships, or they value partnerships or marriage, and you find that a lot of the topics are more related to business, I say that is a red flag.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate that, LaToya. Jessica, any thoughts you want to chime in on that particular comment?
Yes. So thank you for educating me as well about the red pill community because I didn't know that existed. But within that community, you were talking about how men are using women, and they just have given up on that monogamous, and this is
Yeah.
what they can get out of that woman for them. And I think that goes back to about your upbringing and you not being healed as a person. So all these things are happening in our Black community because we're not facing our issues. We're in denial about what's really going on inside of us. So like Carl was saying, you can be in 10 marriages that don't work, and you have to take accountability for what you are putting into that marriage. So we don't take accountability, and we don't have accountability partners within our community. It's so easy to go to your girlfriend and be like, girl, he did this and he did that, and she's high-fiving you in agreement. But when you come to her and say, girl, I'm trying to save my marriage because he cheated, they're looking at you like, why are you trying to save your marriage? There's 10 other men out here that wouldn't do that for you. So I think we need to have the right kind of people around us that help uplift us and support us so that we can continue to have these great monogamous relationships, so that we're not giving in to these men saying that, allowing men to use us. Because clearly, if you're allowing a man to use you, there's something going on inside of you. We can't just blame a man for saying that, it's his fault for using them, because you as the woman have placed yourself in that position to be used. So you need to look back at yourself and find out, how can I heal so that I can be strong enough to know the red flags that this man is giving me? And I think that's the importance of that comment. That's what we need to look at. Go back to yourself, point the finger back at yourself and hold yourself accountable, and get you a group of people, men, women included, to be your accountability partner.
Ooh, heard it here on DBDS live, man. Accountability. I'm going to take one more comment because we have the 6:34 mark. I see my sister, Miss Newman, dropping some excellent questions, and we'll make it quick. Go ahead, Carl.
Do you guys believe in the 50-50 rule?
It's a great question, man.
Hold on.
Why you gotta take a drink first?
I take a drink
It's
on
a
that
great question.
My simple answer for me: do what works for you. Do what works for you. We don't live in a time, and I think the thing people miss most of the time is we don't live in an era where a dollar stretching went further. We don't live in that era anymore. The dollar doesn't.
Yeah.
The cost of living and inflation has gone up almost 1,500% over what a dollar cost back then. So
Inflation.
it does take two incomes to work to run a household. If people don't want to do a 50-50, then if a woman's going to live underneath a man, this is I'm not saying this in a bad way, then she has to live within his means. And
Facts.
if you understand things, there were 14% of men in the world making six figures. 14% of all the men in the entire world making six figures. If you can't live under 60,000, 70,000, then you need to either stay single or you need to help out in some type of way. But that doesn't exclude the man from not coming home helping with the dishes, cooking, this, if y'all both working. It's 50-50 across the board. You guys have to decide what works. But my short answer, do what works best for you. These people have
Great answer.
I want somebody to pay for this and do all this and do all that other stuff. I'm sick of listening from people who want sponsorships instead of relationships and partnerships. If you want a sponsorship, go ask Coca-Cola to sponsor you.
Oh. I mean, wow, very well said, Carl. I mean, from my perspective, and I'll go ahead and throw in another opinion from a man's point of view. My whole thing is, my wife and I, we don't believe in, it's her money or my money. We believe it's our money. Our whole mindset is the partnership aspect. And, as long as we're respecting each other, and regardless, she's still going to have that respect for me as a man, as the leader of the household. And as Carl stated, just do what's best for you, And I think that's a really great question, because I see that a lot on social media that amplifies the gender war as well, 50-50 and so forth. But, when you come into it headstrong with a partnership mindset, and base it off character and how that person treats you. And as long as that person is financially stable and respects you and so forth, I think a lot of people are missing the boat when it comes to that. There has been times where sisters, you know, I take that example of Denzel Washington and Pauletta Washington. She was making way more money. I mean, Denzel was financially stable, but making more money than him. But she's seen his character, and they worked on it. And now this man is like superstar actor, you know. So you have to do what's best for you at the end of the day. But great question. Okay, so listen, I see more comments coming in. We're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, man. This is such an excellent topic. This is why we're going to do a part 2. So sit tight. Don't you go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. This is DBDS Live. We'll be right back.
You know, you and I, we talk all the time, and you know, and really, man, I just give, you know, much love and appreciation to you for, you know, founding, you know, DBDS and starting it, man, because it's not normal. You know, there's so much banter back and forth, and you know, just like you and I talked earlier, you know, before we got on, who's going to raise the white flag first?
Hey!
That's beautiful.
Hey!
I'm so excited. This is my first Queen takeover. Usually I'm in with the fellas, but I'm excited today.
Once again, I want to thank this amazing panel and much love to the DBDS family.
Mel, take it
us
away.
Mel.
All right. Thank you all for the great comments. Trust me, we're going to get to more of them. But we are talking about gender wars. Welcome back to DBDS Live. If you're joining us, that's the discussion we're having today. And we're in the studio with my sister, Latoya Watson, my DBDS sister, Jessica Newman, and the accountability coach, Carl. And we've been talking how harmful this is to the family structure. All right. So before we go to our next subtopic, I want to come back to my sister Latoya to give her thoughts on the 50-50 comment that was just up here, and I'll bring it right back on the screen here. There you go.
Thanks. I wanted to share this for the ladies. Something that, and I feel like Carl's eyes are on me because this is a hot topic. And yes, in all seriousness though, this topic I think has also fueled the gender war. And ladies, what I have found in talking to different male friends, married, single, I have found that if we address it in a way that doesn't come off demanding, these men are more than willing to provide, and there won't even necessarily have to be a conversation about it. So I really think the key is not coming off demanding or some entitlement stuff, right? I struggled with it too. I'm just going to put it out there. So when I hear about the 50-50 question now, I really like to advise ladies about that. It really is our approach. It really is our tone. And those are just some little secrets I'll share with y'all, because I don't think we're hearing a lot about that. And even the men who answer the question, I guess they don't really want to say that. So maybe I'm sharing some secrets, but I hope that helps.
No, appreciate that. No, I mean, we can go all day on that topic within itself.
No, one amazing answer, Latoya. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. But yeah, it's we're gonna do a show. We're gonna dedicate.
Oh, we're gonna tackle that.
Yeah, we're gonna dedicate a whole show to that. Because it needs to be broken down, like you said, from just so many different aspects of it. I'll add this real quick. I don't know any man, not a male. I don't know any man who doesn't take pleasure and joy in providing for a woman that he cares for and loves, who respects him, appreciates him, encourages him, and does not make him feel like she's entitled to his money or their money, or he has to provide a certain level. Believe me, I believe that to be more the truth than what's put out there, and not, well, if you're broke, just say you're broke. You know, that we can go on with that, but go ahead.
Oh, facts, man. That's all right. I mean, definitely we're going to touch on that show, and I see other comments coming in. We'll definitely touch on the other comments, but right now we're going to dive into our second subtopic, and the second subtopic is, for the gender wars, what effects is this having on relationships, man? And it's very serious, very serious. So for me, and from my perspective, I just think that in this battlefield, I would say, in other words, like I stated earlier, we're fighting the wrong war, because the enemy is not our sisters and the enemy is not our brothers, but rather, I think, any force that tries to tear us apart. And I feel like, you know, the reality is, the real threat, as I stated, is the breakdown of the nuclear family. And that, you know, includes the increase of divorce and the falling rates of marriages. And I feel like the rise of fatherless homes and single motherhood. And sometimes in these phases, you know, we have this, I feel like we have this dissatisfaction and untrustworthiness of the opposite sex. And when this occurs, this is why we have a hard time trying to build with somebody else, besides other factors that we'll talk on Gender War Part 2. So those are my thoughts. So I just want to hear from my sister Jessica. What are your thoughts? What effects do you think this is having on relationships, especially in today's society?
Today's society, you're seeing a lot of women and men saying, like, I just don't want to be in a relationship. You know, too difficult, too much to handle, too many responsibilities. It's just easier to be by myself, because I'm independent. I can get my own house. I already got my own car. I can do it, so I don't really need someone else to add to me, you know. And I think we are losing focus, because it's not about adding to you, because you should already be whole and complete. So if you are already whole and complete, it's just someone that you can build with, because the main goal for a marriage is not, I just saw somewhere this video where a guy was talking about, people think marriage is the end of the race. You know, you win this big prize, but now you're married. But marriage is the beginning of the marathon. It's just so if you think that now you won something, you haven't won anything. This is where all the hard work begins. So I think people don't want to do the hard work. So it's easier to just say, I'd rather be alone. I'm gonna, you know, men don't do this. If you can't do this for me, he's not good enough, and just be by myself, or just date multiple people, because society has made it seem like having multiple relationships is okay. You know, and when you look on social media, they're not putting us married couples in the forefront. They're putting all this ratchet singleness, you know, crazy people, all in multiple relationships, all the, you know, oh, I was with him last night. That's what everybody wants to see. They don't want to see healthy, whole relationships. They want to see the drama and the ratchetness. So I think these gender wars are just continue to play into the fact that we don't need each other. But at the end of the day, we do need each other. Because the Black community is being torn down, not just by us, but by all the outside factors as well. So we need to stick together so that we can uplift each other and fight against those things that are coming against us.
Man, very love what you said, Jessica. Very well said. And I mean, I like how you put it right on, you know, on the Black community, because that's what it's really all about. You know, right now, the way that is going, we have dire consequences. The way that we I say like we don't give out that selfless love. Like it's more like a selfish love when we go against each other. And this is the statistics is across the board. You know, for example, a black young adult who grew up in a single parent home are about 1.8 more likely to have spent time in prison or jail or by their late 20s compared to peers from a home headed by two biological parents. And this is why I emphasize that we do need each other. I mean, the Asian statistics when it comes to divorce, because we have the highest, but the Asians, their numbers is almost in the single digits. You don't hear them out there saying I don't need a man, and the man over there saying like I'm just gonna abandon my woman, or you don't see other Asians calling the other Asian a simp just because he want to lead, provide, and protect his woman. It's only in our community that we have this issue. We have to change the narrative, my people. I'm coming to my sister Latoya. What are your thoughts on this topic?
You know, as a therapist, I'm also thinking about that perspective, and I do think the division, the us having lower numbers in the nuclear family is increasing mental health issues. We were not designed to live alone. We were not designed to live with each other. And my framework that I talk about when I go to colleges, I talk about intersecting mental health and social connections because it is needed. Like research shows this. Research supports all of that we are not designed to be alone. So from a biblical perspective, but also science really talks about that. And so what happens as some of us are, like I'm almost 40, those in even younger than me or in their 50s have lived alone for such an extended period of time, I do think it impacts our mental health, and it also impacts our children. I've also seen within my own family, my younger relatives who think that being in a relationship can cause more health issues, but healthy relationships actually decreases health issues. And I'm sure one of y'all can support me with the data on that. But in all seriousness, it is concern. I'm concerned for the Black family. I'm concerned that my younger cousins, I'm glad my son does not have that outlook yet, but some of my younger cousins feel like they will be better off alone. They won't have the trauma. Again, with social media, I think we are glamorizing singleness and the traveling and getting the bag and the business and the career and all of these things. And in some degree, I understand, and I've been there before, not too long ago, because what do you do when you are a certain age and you do desire a healthy relationship and it is not, you don't have any options, or you're just, for whatever reason, it's not happening for you. So it's multifaceted. There's so many different factors, but I just wanted to touch upon the mental health piece because I think that's really important. And again, the Black family is really at stake.
Thank you for sharing with me. Your thoughtfulness and your vulnerability. Thank you so much, because you've been there, and by sharing those gems, I'm to watch the show and now start to shift the mindset. So thank you for that. Speaking of that, Carl, before I come to you, one of our comments, this can lead into what you have to say, Carl, and as to what effects, but she was asking, define healthy relationships, because some people have different opinions and views of what that looks like. So if you can answer that question first, and if Latoya and Jessica want to chime in on to that, and then we could touch on, what effects do you think gender wars have on relationships today, especially when it's not healthy these days,
Yeah, what a healthy relationship looks like, and I'm just going to do this. I talked about this on one show before. I couldn't remember the pillars. and to build foundation, and it's, you know, respect. That's one. You got to have respect. You can't like or love someone if you don't have respect for them. So you have to respect that individual. That's one of the pillars.
Gotcha.
Another pillar is communication. You know, the ability to communication, and that, to me, I add to this now as having a real understanding of what conflict resolution is. We're not taught conflict resolution at all, really, until maybe you get to college. I can't remember the course. Sorry, might remember it. I think we talked about one time before, the conflict resolution course that you might get in college. But that's college. You're now 20, 21, 22 years old. You now have to unlearn, 18, 19 years? So communication is big, and that's part of, you know, the help with the conflict resolution. So you got relationship, you've got communication,
respect.
and then, like I said, you add to the part of vulnerability. Being the ability to be vulnerable with one another without using the vulnerability against the other person. You don't want to take because wherever he's vulnerable at, she should be able to be strong at. Wherever she's vulnerable at, he should be able to be strong at. Or you work to become strong in that area for that individual with that. And then the last part, the last part is having, you know, you like this person, you like being around this person. You know, you take those 4 things and you make them your 4 pillars, and now you can put a floor of love. You can build that floor of love.
That's a strong foundation.
It begins to build that healthy relationship. But if you don't have any of those, there's no way that you can even move forward in a relationship. You know, and that like includes trust. I trust this person. And the one thing, and I'll add this, part of the piping, the plumbing, because it runs all through the whole house when you build it, you got to be healed enough to date.
Wow. See the sisters both shaking their head. Very well said, man. The breakdown, the respect, the communication. You have to like that person. I mean, no one should have to feel forced to be around someone else. If somebody like you, they're going to want to be around you. But if you have to call and beg for somebody's attention to be with you and come see me, and why you haven't seen me, guess what? That's not the right person. Man, very well said. Anything you want to add to that, Jessica? I'll come to you. Define healthy relationships. I mean,
Carl said
it
all. I mean, how do you go after that? I would definitely add in about balance and boundaries. I think that's important to establish that in the beginning of the relationship, you know, what you will and will not accept. Because sometimes we go into relationships thinking that, you know, it just happened one time, so it's okay, or that person will change. And most of the time, people show you who they are the first go round. So we need to start paying attention to that and establishing those boundaries. And that I will not accept these things and sticking to it. And balance is important because, you know, it's back to that 50-50 thing. It's not always 50-50. So we have to do what works best.
There we go.
And find that balance for each other. You know, whether it's household duties, work environment with the kids, whatever it is, you have to establish that. And that stuff has to be established way before kids come into the picture, you know, and sometimes we can't help it. You know, we all don't do things in order, but if you can do things, you know, before children come in the picture, get those things together, because all your bad habits, all your bad ways, without you even intentionally doing it, will fall onto your children. And now we're just continuing this cycle. It's the cycle of, you know, these gender wars, these bad relationships, this mindset, I don't need someone, or I see my mom and dad go through things, so now I don't want to go through those things. So if you're already healed and whole, and you bring that into that relationship, two whole people, I think we can heal our Black community and get our families back in order the way it was intended to be.
Thank you so much, Jessica. So eloquently put it. Latoya, do you want to add anything to this sister's comment? What is a healthy relationship? Because she's staying.
Sure. Everybody, Carl and Jessica basically covered it, but I just want to give some examples of what it doesn't look like, because I know it's some of these concepts, respect and trust, are still difficult for people to truly understand, because again, none of us were ever taught what a healthy relationship looks like. So some examples that I would say, if you feel like you have to walk on eggshells around your partner, that is not a sign of a healthy relationship.
Facts.
Another example I would say, if you don't feel comfortable being vulnerable and sharing different things with your partner, that is also a sign of that's not a healthy relationship. And you'll notice it when you're paying attention to how your body feels around that person. Those are signs that I ignored in the past when I was not in healthy relationships. So I really want to share that. Pay attention to, sometimes you may notice something funny, a funny feeling in your stomach or a knot, and you don't typically have this same sensations coming up when you're around other people. So really pay attention to our body. Our body gives us cues and signals. We just many times ignore it, or we're not really paying attention.
Very well said, my sister. Very well said. So listen, we're going to take one last commercial break. When we come back, and I'm sorry I did not get to all the comments. In fact, I think there is a red pill brother that just posted a comment. I'll go ahead and post it up there because I'm always ready for challenges. I don't want to say challenges. We accept everybody's point of views, whether we agreed or disagree, but I'll go ahead and post it up here, and then we'll go to a commercial break.
So take a sip.
A lot of sisters have overplayed their hand by abusing the power that they've had, flaunting their beauty all over the internet, acting like the men they meet every day aren't good enough for them. Chasing athletes and movie stars. A lot of these men got tired of it. I respect your point of view, but preaching unity to these entitled women is not the way to go. Peace. All I'm gonna say is, all I'll say is this: I get what he's saying. I understand. I understand it. But again, why even address or deal with those women?
Exactly. If
that's what you're attracting and entertaining, that's on you.
The accountability parts.
If you're leading with your money, or you're you're running after women because of their looks, their bodies, these different things, don't deal with them. If I come across a woman who feels that she has a sense of entitlement, she gets the block button. It's not even an issue. You don't deal with those types of things. You don't deal with that. I teach my sons that. If a woman feels like, a young woman feels like she's entitled to whatever you have in the cat air and I can pick up on, I tell my sons, block her. So I get it. My thing is, don't deal with them. The same way I'll tell women, if you know you got a guy out here that's got 18 baby mamas, why are you sleeping with him?
Why?
Block him.
That's it.
Because he's not going to change with baby 19.
Yeah.
So
facts.
Again, you're addressing the extremist side of stuff. We're looking at the middle to you're looking at division. We're looking at unity. Yeah, we're preaching unity, but if they feel like they're entitled, they'll miss out. I'll leave with this last fact. I know we're up against time.
Yeah.
But there are three. It's three. The world is 3-1, women to men. And if women want to run around, the ones that want to be the entitlement brother that you're talking about and referring to, they'll be living in the Golden Girl Resort.
Oh.
That's it.
I like that show, man. Golden Girls, man. Come on. What's that, my man? Yeah, man. I mean, I know, bro. I see what you're saying, man. But you know, you are what you attract, my man. So just change your mindset, and then hopefully that'll shift your mind frame to not continue to go after these entitlement women. So we're going to go ahead and take one last commercial break. When we come back, we'll do the Jerry Springer moment. This is DBDS Live. Sit tight.
Are you single? Do you know about dbdssingles.com? Are you ready to meet a quality man or classy woman? The DBDS brothers want you to know that love and loyalty still exists. So if you're ready to meet relationship-ready people, sign up today at dbdssingles.com. Let's make love and loyalty dope again.
All right. Welcome back to the DBDS Live studio. I'm here with my DBDS sisters, Latoya Watson, my sister Jessica Newman, and the accountability coach DBDS brother Carl. And we've been talking about gender wars, which is, I would say, a much needed conversation, right? But now it's time for our Jerry Springer moment, where we share our final thoughts for today's show. And listen, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to check out our previous episodes, make sure you go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to DBDS Live. Hit that notification button so you don't miss these amazing shows and these amazing guests. I mean, they're not guests anymore, they're family, I would say. And you can also catch us on the Pure Moment Network. And besides the Pure Moment Network, if you're not familiar with that, it is on the Roku channel. All you have to do is add it in, type in Pure Moment Network, and add it on to the rest of your channels besides HBO Max and Showtime or whatever you may have. You can also listen to us on Anchor Radio, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. So we're everywhere. So such an amazing show. I am first going to come to my sister Jessica. What are your final thoughts for today's show?
My final thoughts are that it is my hope that the Black community finds healing and that we learn to love ourselves and each other. I think that is the only way we are going to grow and continue to be successful and to have these healthy relationships that are needed and that are necessary. And I'm just thankful that I had the opportunity to share my thoughts and my opinions on this topic. And I hope that we at least change one person's mindset tonight.
Love it. Nicely said, Jessica. Thank you so much. Next, I'm coming to my sister Latoya. What are your final thoughts? Great show, but what are your final thoughts for today's show?
Yes, great show. I wrote down some notes that I wanted to share with folks. Take breaks from social media. I'm really big on that. For all the iPhone users, set a limit, a daily limit, because us continuing to take in all of that negativity is not good for us. It is not healthy for relationships that you desire, whether you're single or married or whatever your status is. If it's complicated, it's just not good. So taking breaks from social media, unfollowing podcasts or people that create division. Sometimes it's I'm unfollowing people every week. If I see something, I'm like, I'm unfollowing. I cannot take in that type of negativity on a constant basis, because then I'll start to not want to desire marriage. It's we have to be really mindful what the information that we take in. Last but not least, if you do not, let me say this, finding healthy, quality people of the opposite sex outside of social media to have conversation with. And I know this can be difficult for people like, oh, I don't really meet anybody. There's got to be somebody, a cousin, uncle, a relative, somebody at church. And if worst case scenario, if you can't find somebody outside of social media that you can have a conversation that is healthy, that is about unity, where they're not bashing either sex, find a Facebook group. I don't know any Facebook groups off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are some that only talk about healthy marriages and the love of the Black marriage. Maybe you guys know of someone you could share, but I really think we need to start taking in this more positive perspectives on healthy marriages, on healthy relationships and marriages.
Wow. Very well said. Thank you so much for sharing all those nuggets for the people out there. Amazing. This is like, man, we raised the bar on this premiere show. We really have, so thank you. And lastly, I am coming to my brother Carl, man. This show, amazing, man. Simply hitting everything out the park. It's like if somebody's throwing a pitch at us, everyone is hitting a home run on this show. So what are your final thoughts on today's show, man?
Yeah, I appreciate Latoya and Jessica coming on. awesome nuggets, everything y'all were dropping tonight. I'll leave it at this. Stop trying to be the loudest in the room. That's what we got to stop doing. Stop trying to be the loudest in the room. Stop trying to be right all the time. You know, God gave us 2 eyes and 2 ears for a reason and 1 mouth. And some of us act like we got 3 mouths.
Oh.
And you know, we learn to listen to learn. Learn to listen to learn, not listen to respond. Respond with asking for clarity if you need to understand something. But that's the only way we're going to get rid of this war and stop. You know, everybody's trying to be right. It's killing things. You know, there was hurt on both sides. There was trauma on both sides, and it's been caused by both sides. In war, there are casualties. In war, there were innocent bystanders that are part of that, end up getting injured or killed in the midst of that war. And we've been at war for so long, we don't even recognize we're in a war. And that's what happens. You get in this war situation, and people just go about living their normal lives. Been on the front lines. I've seen it. People just walking around town like, oh, what's nothing, going to the grocery store and there's bombs dropping. It happens. And that's where we're at, especially within our community and our culture. There were bombs dropping and people walking around like it's no big deal because you know what? I'm going to go to brunch on Saturday and get on the couch and twerk. You know what? It's no big deal. I should be paying child support, but I'm going to buy, you know, for my sons. But I'm going to go get me some Jordans and the newest outfit instead of doing what I'm supposed to do. You know, we're not looking at the bombs that are dropping in our community, and it's terrifying. Of what's happening, and we don't realize that there's a blood trail being left, and we're not, and we don't even see it anymore.
Very well said, my man. I felt every word that you were stating, just as well as Latoya and Jessica. You know, that energy and that I can't talk today, but that visual that you gave me. Is pretty deep, man. So listen, thank you for my final thoughts for today's show, and also this amazing panel has been excellent. But I believe it's a mistake to believe that an entire gender with no exceptions is the cause of all your problems, because your problems, you know, wouldn't go away if brothers disappear. You know, it wouldn't go away if sisters disappear. And I feel, as everyone stated on this panel, that's where the accountability factor comes into play. And I believe it's time to, you know, shift the narrative that unity is our strength. And in my honest opinion, listen, we have to realize that healthy relationships and marriages are the keys to a healthier community. So listen, my people, let's play our part and unlearn what we learn to become a willing participant in gender reconciliation. Because to me, it's up to us to reject these radical movements that is causing a division between the sexes in favor of building a healthy family. And as a result, it will create a domino effect that will create a healthy society. So once again, I want to thank this amazing panel and much love to the DBDS family.
Take it away, Mel.